Alright folks, this is Jason with the Primal Outdoors channel, and today we're going to be doing a review of the BioLite FirePit. We'll be talking about all the pros and the unfortunate cons of the BioLite FirePit. Alright, so let's get into this review and start with the pros of the FirePit. Now the first pro is the fact that I can do the leave no trace, which is a big deal to me as more and more of us start hitting the woods and overlanding and truck camping. You know, we all want to have fires, and this is a great way to have a campfire and easily clean up after yourself and not be leaving burn scars and fire rings everywhere. You know, this is one of those things that I like having a big on the ground fire when there's a group of people as much as anybody. But this is one of those things that if we don't start kind of cleaning up after ourselves and leaving these campsites in good condition when we leave them, that Forest Service is going to start imposing more regulations. So again, for me, being able to easily and quickly leave no trace is a major plus of this fire pit. So the other major benefit of a fire pit like this is the fact that it can be smokeless. Now right now it's not doing a great job, but that's a lot has to do with the way I have it loaded, and we'll go over that more in the cons. But when it is loaded properly, it does do a great job of minimizing the smoke that is emitted from the fire. There's actually two tubes that run across the top area, and then you have this power supply that has a fan in it, and it's blowing air through those tubes. When that air becomes superheated by the fire, the air coming through those tubes hits the smoke and then ignites and creates a secondary combustion, which helps minimize the amount of smoke coming out of the fire pit. And again, when it's loaded properly, it does actually work very well. Another thing I like about this fire pit is it's actually fairly easy to light. The fan actually has 5 speeds, so you can kind of crank it up a little bit and create a billowing effect. So as you're starting to light your wood and everything, that you're keeping some constant air on it, which helps get that wood to ignite a bit faster. And especially if you're trying to start your fire with wood that might be a little bit damp, that really comes in handy in trying to get this thing to take off and work really well. So that's another thing that I find as a benefit versus a fire pit that's strictly on the ground, or other fire pits that I've used. Having that fan and being able to kind of control that, the rate of airflow really does help kind of spark that combustion and gets this fire pit going pretty quick and easily. So another thing that I really like about this fire pit is that you really can see the fire almost 360 degrees around. You're not just seeing the fire come out the top. The perforated holes, especially in low light, really help you to enjoy the whole thing. You can see the coals glowing down below, and it just kind of, to me, adds an extra level of ambience and makes it a little bit closer to a regular on-the-ground fire, versus other fire pits that I've used where basically all you do is see the fire coming out the top. Okay, and another feature of this fire pit is they do have a grill set up on it, so you can barbecue on it, or like you see here, I've got some water in a jug here that I'm using to just kind of heat. I don't really use it for anything more than heating water. Unfortunately, the area that I live in, we're mainly pine and fir don't make for great barbecuing. And if I put that inside the fire pit, I really just can't get the kind of coals for good barbecuing, and I end up just with flames like what you're seeing now, and that doesn't work well. But if you are in a place that has good hardwoods and stuff like that, that you could build up a good coal base inside there, I think you could barbecue on it and it might work pretty well. Another thing I should mention, again, not something that I use, but you can actually put briquettes in here and use it that way. The only downside, and you know, I'm going to not talk about this in the cons, but the only downside to the cooking I see is not having any type of lid for the unit that can, you know, kind of trap that heat in. Now, I have found a way using my scuttle lid, that if I was barbecuing, I can actually set this on and over the food, so it does trap some heat in there that way. So there are ways around that, but again, it's not really my primary purpose for this fire pit, so I don't really use it for that fashion. But it is a benefit that they do have, that they do have the option. So another added benefit of this fire pit is you do have this charge bank here that's running the fan, but it also has an external USB, so you can go ahead and plug in like your phone or tablet or a Bluetooth speaker and charge it while you're sitting by the fire. But one thing that I would like to mention, because I've seen a few comments, is that BioLite's little backpacking stove will actually recharge its battery bank while it has a little fire burning in it. This one does not. This battery bank does not get recharged in any way, shape, or form when you have a fire going in the fire pit. You do have to take it off the fire pit and plug it into a regular charge USB and charge it that way. All right, so my last pro for this fire pit is one that I actually really like about this fire pit, and that is, if I remove the grill and everything and get it out of my way, is it has these nice handles. And even though I've got a fire going in here, I can grab these handles and move the fire pit around. So if I find that I don't really like where I originally set it, I can go ahead and just pick it up and move it, and it's no big deal. That's definitely not something you can do with a regular fire, and it's not something I've been able to do with other fire pits that I've tried. So to me, that's a major pro in my book. All right, folks, so now that we've gone through some of the pros of the BioLite fire pit, let's go through some of the cons. And the first con to me is the fact that it actually does need to have that power unit to work properly. It absolutely will allow you to have a fire in it without that unit on there, but without that unit pushing air through those pipes, it will not work smokeless at all. It will just burn like a regular fire. And to me, that's a little bit of a con, because I've used other smokeless fire pits that don't require any power whatsoever, and I kind of prefer that. All right, so my second con on this BioLite fire pit is the fan. You can hear it buzzing pretty heavily, and it takes away from the overall ambience of the fire. I want to hear fire crackling, not the humming of a fan in the background. So to me, again, that's just another downside to having to have that power pack. And like I said before, you know, I've used fire pits that don't require that, and to me, that gives them the check on the plus side versus using this particular fire pit. All right, now let's get to the con that's been the elephant in the room this whole review. You guys have noticed that I keep talking about this thing being smokeless, but yet there's been a ton of smoke coming out of it. But now if you actually look, there's not much smoke coming out of it at all. And the problem is there's not a lot of room inside this firebox. So if your wood gets above those pipes that are going horizontally, anything that combusts above them is gonna smoke. I've finally gotten the fire burned down to a point now where the wood is now below those tubes, and so now you don't see much smoke coming out of the fire pit. It's definitely cut back a whole lot, but again, you only have from the grate to the top of those tubes about 6 inches, and that doesn't give you a lot of room to load wood. In fact, you know, even putting as small wood as this in there is almost too big for this fire pit, and that's one of the things that I really don't like. I can't really load this thing up, and so therefore the fires I have are all pretty small. So on really, really cold nights, it doesn't really kick out a ton of heat because the fire is so small. And then the other thing I find is, because I'm having to use a lot of small wood, is that I'm feeding it all the time, because you got that fan pushing air on it, and so it just burns through the wood really fast, and especially using very small chunks of wood. So again, major con on my part. I do like it when it's not smoking like it is now, but I wish I could have a bigger fire in the firebox. All right, so let's get to the worst con of this BioLite FirePit, and that is the fact that it is rusting really bad. I've had this FirePit since about mid-August, and it is October 31st right now, 2019. That's only about 2.5 months, and it's already showing major signs of rust. So I feel like if I continue to use this FirePit for the next year or so regularly, that all this area where you got the perforated holes, that's all going to start to deteriorate and rust out, and you're going to end up with big gaping holes where it basically the metal just deteriorates away. So to me, that's a major problem. I don't know if they could solve that by going the route of stainless steel and see if that would work better, but either way, something needs to be done about that, because to me, you know, this FirePit's $200. I want it to last more than 1 year before it starts to completely rust out. All right, so my last complaint on the BioLite FirePit is a little bit of a minor one, but it has to do with this bag that you can carry the FirePit in. This bag is just really chintzy, and the material's super thin. It doesn't even zip around the FirePit. It just sits wide open, and it doesn't have any handles really. What you do have is you have 2 pieces of Velcro on each end that when you put the FirePit in, you can wrap these pieces of Velcro which kind of tighten the bag around the FirePit, and then you can grab a hold from there. But I would much rather see them build a better bag that's out of a heavier material that actually would go all the way around the FirePit, zip, and have a good duffel and a place to store the battery pack. To me, that would be a lot better than this piece. To me, this is garbage, and probably won't last another month or so. All right, folks, so this is gonna wrap up my review on the BioLite FirePit. Other than the rusting, I do believe this unit has its place in things like backyard barbecues, vehicle camping, event camping where maybe you're not allowed to have a fire on the ground, but you could get away with something like this that's not going to leave a ground scar. If something like this would work for you, let me know in the comments. If it won't work for you, also leave that down in the comments. And if this video was helpful to you in some way, please leave a like. If you have any other questions or concerns about this unit, please also leave those down in the comment section, and we'll catch you guys again outside.
In the great outdoors, forever free.